I didn't recognize him at first. Not in that haze of pain and cheap whiskey buzzing through my veins. New York had a way of blurring faces into a carousel of suits and sneers, especially after 3 months of pounding pavement from my shoebox apartment in Hell's Kitchen. I'd come here from Ohio, chasing the neon promise of reinvention, but all I'd found was a mirror reflecting back the same scared queer kid who'd hidden his first crush on the high school quarterback behind flannel shirts and football stats. That letter in my pocket? It wasn't just a job denial. It was Dad's voice, gravelly from years in the auto plant, telling me one last time that real men don't cry over fairy tales. The guy who'd punched me, some Wall Street bro with a Rolex that screamed Daddy's money, had already slunk off into the downpour, muttering slurs under his breath. I wiped the blood from my mouth with the back of my hand, tasting copper and salt, and that's when Alex, hell, I didn't know his name yet, knelt down in the filth like it was a boardroom negotiation. His cologne hit me first, crisp, like ocean spray mixed with aged bourbon, cutting through the alley's rot. Up close, he was older than the shadows suggested, mid-40s, maybe, with silver threading his temples and laugh lines etched deep around those Arctic eyes. But there was no laugh in them now, just a quiet fury, banked like embers in a forge. "You gonna sit here bleeding? Or you gonna let me buy you a real drink?" His voice was low, gravel wrapped in velvet, with that East Coast clip that said old money and zero fucks. No pity, no questions, just an offer, extended like a lifeline tossed into shark-infested waters. I laughed, a bitter bark that turned into a cough. "What's a guy like you doing in a dump like this? Lose a bet with your hedge fund buddies?" He didn't smile, but something flickered in his gaze. Amusement? Recognition? Something like that. He stood, offering a hand gloved in supple leather. I took it because what the hell else was there? His grip was firm, unyielding, pulling me up like I weighed nothing. The coat swallowed me whole, warm, well-scented with him, and for a split second, I forgot the sting in my jaw, the ache in my chest. We ended up in a speakeasy-style lounge 2 blocks over, the kind with velvet booths and jazz humming low from hidden speakers. No rain here, just dim Edison bulbs casting golden pools on mahogany tables. He ordered a scotch, neat, top shelf, the burn sliding down like liquid fire, and slid into the booth across from me. Up close, without the alley grime, he was devastating. Broad shoulders filling out a bespoke Tom Ford suit, tie loosened just enough to hint at the man beneath the armor. Wall Street's wolf, they called him in the whispers I'd overheard at networking mixers. Alexander Thorne, the merger king who'd tanked competitors with a single whisper, leaving trails of bankruptcies and broken careers. Ruthless, unforgiving, gay? The rumors swirled like smoke, but no one dared confirm it in a town where deals were struck in backrooms and secrets buried deeper than bodies. "I'm Nolan," I said finally, nursing the glass like it held answers. "Nolan Hayes, from Dayton, if that tells you anything." "Alex." He raised his tumbler, clinking it against mine. No last name, no backstory, just Alex, like he was testing the waters. "And it tells me you're a long way from home, kid." The kid should have rankled, but it didn't. Coming from him, it felt like an anchor, not a slight. We talked, or rather, I spilled. The job hunt that had turned into a gauntlet of ghosted interviews and passive-aggressive emails. The family back home who'd love me if I could just man up and date the girl next door. The ex-boyfriend in college who'd bailed when I suggested coming out to my folks, leaving me with a ghost of a tattoo on my ribcage. "Breathe." Alex listened, really listened, his fingers drumming a slow rhythm on the table, eyes never leaving mine. No interruptions, no advice, just presence, heavy and real. By the time the bartender called last call, the scotch had loosened the knots in my gut, and the rain outside had eased to a drizzle. "You got a place to crash?" he asked, casual as checking the weather. I snorted. "Subway's always open." "Not tonight." He stood, tossing a crisp 100 on the bar, tip included because of course, and guided me out with a hand at the small of my back. The touch lingered, warm through my thin shirt, sending a jolt straight to places I hadn't let myself feel in months. His town car idled at the curb, a sleek black beast with tinted windows, and before I could protest, we were sliding into the leather-scented interior, Manhattan's lights streaking by like shooting stars. His penthouse was a fortress in the sky. Trump Tower vibes, all glass walls and minimalist chrome, overlooking Central Park like it was his personal kingdom. No clutter, no photos. Just abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than my student loans. He poured me a nightcap in the kitchen, a sprawling marble island where deals were no doubt sealed over dawn coffees. "Crash here," he said, handing me the glass. "Guest rooms down the hall. No strings." But there were strings. I could feel them humming between us. As I stripped down in the opulent bathroom, steam from the rain shower fogging the mirrors, I caught my reflection. Bruised jaw, hollow cheeks, eyes haunted by what-ifs. And him? God, what was a man like Alex Thorne doing playing White Knight to a nobody like me? I didn't sleep much that night. The city thrummed below, a heartbeat syncing with my own erratic pulse. Around 3 a.m., I padded into the living room in the silk robe he'd left out, finding him on the terrace, shirt unbuttoned to his navel, staring at the skyline with a cigarette dangling from his lips. Smoke curled up like secrets. "Can't sleep?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. He glanced over, exhaling slow. "Old habit." He stubbed it out, gesturing me closer. The air was cool, crisp with autumn bite, and we stood shoulder to shoulder, the silence comfortable, charged. "Tell me something real," I said, emboldened by the dark. "Why me? Alley cat like that, you could have walked by." His laugh was low, self-deprecating. "Because you remind me of someone. Me 20 years ago. Bleeding in a different alley, different city." He turned, close enough that I could see the faint scar above his lip, the weight in his eyes. "And because when you looked up at me, Nolan, you didn't look away." Our first kiss happened there, under the indifferent stars. Tentative at first, his lips brushing mine like a question. Then deeper, hungrier, his hands framing my face, thumbs tracing the bruise with a gentleness that belied his reputation. He tasted like smoke and scotch and salvation, pulling me against him until there was no space left for doubt. We tumbled inside, a tangle of limbs and whispered wants, the penthouse echoing with the raw honesty we'd both been starving for. That night, he held me like I was home, fingers tracing lazy patterns on my back, breath warm against my neck. Wall Street's wolf undone. And me, for the first time in forever, I believed in fairy tales again. But New York has teeth, and dawn brings the bite. The morning light sliced through the floor-to-ceiling windows like a scalpel, carving Alex's profile in sharp relief as he stood at the kitchen island. Phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in that clipped tone that could make billionaires sweat. "No, Harlan, short the position. Now, I don't care if it's Thanksgiving for your conscience. Markets don't celebrate." He was back in full armor. Crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to elbows revealing forearms corded with quiet power. Tie knotted like a noose he wore with pride. I watched from the doorway, robe hanging loose, nursing a mug of coffee he'd brewed. Bold, black, no frills, just like him. Last night felt like a dream, hazy around the edges, but the ache in my muscles was proof enough. The way he'd mapped my body with reverent hands, murmuring my name like a prayer, Nolan, God Nolan. It had cracked something open in me, a fissure letting light into the dark corners I'd boarded up. He ended the call, turning with a smile that softened the edges. "Morning, Hayes. Sleep okay?" "Better than okay." I crossed to him, stealing a sip from his mug, our fingers brushing. The domesticity of it hit me sideways. Two men in a billionaire's kitchen, no hiding, no shame. "You always wake up conquering the world?" "Only on weekdays." He pulled me close, kissing my temple, lingering there like he was memorizing the scent of my skin. "Showers free. Then breakfast. My chef does a mean eggs Benedict." It was surreal, slipping into his routine like a missing puzzle piece. The guest room shower was a rainforest cascade, hot enough to melt away the alley's ghosts, and when I emerged, towel slung low, he was plating food on the terrace. Poached eggs golden on English muffins, hollandaise dripping like liquid sun. We ate overlooking the park, leaves turning crimson and gold, the city sprawl a glittering promise below. He asked about Dayton. The steel mills shuddering, mom's apple pies, the summer nights sneaking beers by the river with buddies who'd never know the real me. I asked about him, tentative, peeling back layers. "Princeton 98, he said, forking into his eggs. "MBA from Wharton. Started as a junior analyst eating ramen in a studio walk-up. Now, Thorne Capital. We specialize in hostile takeovers. Friendly ones are for amateurs." I whistled low. Heard the stories. That biotech merger last year, you gutted the competition. His fork paused, eyes darkening. Necessary evil. You win big or you vanish. But there was a shadow there, a flicker of something raw. It's a game, Nolan. High stakes, higher falls. You learn to compartmentalize. We spent the day wandering the Upper East Side. His world, all doorman tipping hats and boutiques with price tags that made my eyes water. He bought me a jacket, cashmere like his coat, insisting it was practical for New York's bite. At a hole-in-the-wall falafel joint off Madison, we shared a plate, knees bumping under the table, his hand on my thigh a quiet claim. Laughter came easy with him, dry with slicing through the mundane, stories of boardroom blunders and wild Hamptons weekends. For the first time, I felt seen, not as the Ohio transplant scraping by, but as Nolan, flawed, fierce, worthy. That evening, back at the penthouse, things heated up again. We cooked pasta carbonara from a recipe he'd clipped from the Times years ago, his hips swaying to Coltrane on the vinyl player. Wine flowed, red and robust, loosening tongues and inhibitions. In the dim glow of pendant lights, he confessed fragments. A conservative family in Connecticut, summers at the vineyard, the first boy he'd kissed behind the boathouse at 16. A secret that ended in boarding school exile. I built walls, he said, stirring cream into the pan, voice low, thicker than these skyscrapers. Love's a liability in this game. I pressed against his back, arms around his waist, chin on his shoulder. Not to me. We made love on the living room rug, slow and unhurried, bodies sinking like we'd been choreographed for this. He was all contrasts. Fierce grip on my hips, tender kisses to my collarbone, whispering endearments in the dark. Afterward, tangled in sheets on the terrace chaise, stars pricking the velvet sky, I traced the tattoo on his inner arm. A wolf's head, snarling, inked in faded black. Your spirit animal? He chuckled, but it was hollow. More like a warning. Bite first or get bitten. I didn't press. Instead, I pulled him closer, our breaths mingling, and for a heartbeat, the world shrank to us. Two souls adrift, finding harbor. But harbors have storms. 2 weeks blurred into a fever dream. Alex pulled strings, landing me an interview at a boutique firm. Nothing flashy, but a foot in the door. Nights were ours. Rooftop bars in Soho, his hand in mine under the table. Lazy Sundays in bed, debating the Great Gatsby over takeout dim sum. He was opening up. Stories of the deals that haunted him, the mentor who'd groomed him only to stab him in the back during a '09 crash takeover. Trust no one, he'd say. But then he'd kiss me like I was the exception, holding me through nightmares where the markets crashed and took him with them. I fell hard, stupidly, irrevocably. Texted my sister back home. Met someone. Feels real. She replied with emojis and cautions. Don't get hurt. Null. City's full of wolves. She wasn't wrong. The crack came on a Friday, rain lashing the windows like accusations. I'd aced the interview, junior analyst gig, entry-level but steady, and rushed to his office tower in Midtown, bouquet of sunflowers in hand because they reminded me of Ohio fields. The receptionist waved me up. I'd become a fixture, the friend with benefits that raised no brows in a town of discreet affairs. His corner office was a glass eyrie, views swallowing the horizon. But the door was ajar, voices spilling out, low, urgent. You can't keep this up, Alex. The boy's sweet, but he's a distraction. Bored whispers already. Thorns gone soft. And after what happened with Julian. Julian. The name landed like a gut punch. I froze, sunflowers wilting in my grip. Alex's voice, steel-edged. Julian was a mistake. Blackmailing me with those photos? I handled it. Nolan's different. A laugh, oily and sharp. Harlan, I guessed, the right-hand man from the phone call. Different how? He's got that puppy dog look. One whiff of your skeletons and he'll bolt. Or worse, sell the story. Remember what the Post did last time. Silence thick as fog. Then Alex, quieter. I know the risks. But, Christ, Harlan. It's been years since I felt this. Felt what? Human? The flowers slipped from my fingers, thudding soft on the carpet. I backed away, heart hammering, fleeing the tower before the elevator could ding. Rain soaked me through by the time I hit the street, tears mixing with the downpour. Distraction, puppy dog, all of it a game, another merger of convenience. I ghosted him for 3 days, holing up in my apartment with cheap beer and queer as folk reruns. Ignoring the texts. Nolan, talk to me. What's wrong? On the 4th, he showed up. Pounding on the door at midnight, voice raw through the peephole. Open up, damn it. I know you're in there. I yanked it open, fury blazing. Get out, Alex. Or should I say, Mr. Thorne? Your board's right. You're playing me like one of your hostile takeovers. His face crumpled, blue eyes storm-tossed. What the hell are you, Harlan? You heard him. I heard enough. Julian, blackmail, and me. Your little distraction to feel something after years of ice. He stepped inside, closing the door soft, hands up like surrendering. It's not. God, Nolan, let me explain. He paced the cramped space, my thrift store couch and posters mocking his tailored perfection. Julian was 5 years ago. Lover turned opportunist. Snapped pics during a weekend in the Keys, threatened to leak them unless I cut him into a deal. I paid him off, buried it. Harlan's just protective, paranoid. And me? Am I next on the payroll? No. He stopped, cupping my face, thumbs brushing tears I hadn't realized were falling. You're the first real thing since. I was gonna tell you, tonight over dinner, but you vanished. I shoved him back, chest heaving. Because I trusted you. First time in years and it's all bullshit. Small-town faggot gets pity fuck from the wolf. His slap came fast. Not hard, but shocking, the crack echoing. No, wait, he didn't slap me. His hand froze mid-air, then dropped, horror etching his features. Fuck. Nolan, get out. My voice broke, small and shattered. He did, door clicking shut like a guillotine. I slid down the wall, sobs racking me, the city outside indifferent as ever. Betrayal tastes like ashes, lingers like smoke. I quit the job he'd greased, pride over paycheck, and dove into freelance gigs, scraping by on Upwork audits and bar shifts. Weeks turned to a month. I dodged his calls, blocked his number. But New York's small for big egos, and fate or karma threw us together at a gala for some queer youth charity in Chelsea. Crystal chandeliers, tuxes and gowns, air thick with perfume and pretense. He looked wrecked, thinner, shadows under his eyes, but still magnetic in black tie. Our gazes locked across the room. He excused himself from a cluster of donors, weaving through like a man on a mission. Nolan, my name on his lips, a plea. Alex, I straightened my rented tux, chin up. Here to add me to your skeleton closet? He winced. Can we talk? Outside. The balcony overlooked the Hudson, wind whipping off the water. He leaned on the railing, hands clenched white-knuckled. I fucked up. Harlan's poison. Been with me since Wharton, whispering doubts. But you're not a distraction. You're the only thing keeping me from turning into him. I crossed my arms, heart warring with head. Prove it. He did, in fragments. Texts from a PI confirming Julian's exile to Dubai on a one-way ticket. Harlan's reassignment to European ops. Code for early retirement. I cleared the board, he said, voice fierce. For us. The word hung, fragile as hope. I stepped closer, searching his face. The vulnerability I'd glimpsed that first night, laid bare now. Why risk it? You're the wolf. Invincible. Because alone, I'm just hungry. He reached for me, hesitant. With you, I'm whole. I let him pull me in, our kiss salt-tinged with river mist and second chances. Not fireworks, but embers reigniting, slow, sure. Rebuilding wasn't linear. It was a demolition derby, a swerving through potholes of doubt and debris. Alex didn't sweep me back to the penthouse like some rom-com montage. No, he started small, courting me with the awkward earnestness of a man who'd negotiated trillion-dollar deals but never a heart. Coffee runs to my walk-up at dawn, black with 2 sugars, just how I liked. Walks in the village, hands brushing anonymous in crowds, his thumb stroking my knuckles like a secret code. Patience, he'd murmur when I'd tense at a stranger's stare. We've got time. But time was the enemy, ticking like a bomb. My freelance gigs dried up midwinter. Clients ghosting faster than Tinder matches, and rent loomed like a guillotine. I swallowed pride, crashing at his place sporadically, but the imbalance gnawed. Me in his world of private jets and Michelin stars, feeling like the plus one who forgot his lines. "You're not a kept man," he'd insist, over late-night takeout from Joe's Pizza, Grease spotting his silk pajamas. "You're my equal. Hell, you're the one teaching me how to live." I wanted to believe him. God, I did. Mornings tangled in Egyptian cotton, his head on my chest, listening to my heartbeat like it was market intel. Afternoons in his home office, me auditing spreadsheets on his couch while he paced, phone glued to ear, stealing glances that said mine. Evenings out, discreet at first, then bolder. A queer film fest at IFC, his arm around me in the dark theater. Pride planning meetings where he'd fund the floats but let me volunteer, handing out water bottles with a grin that lit up the chaos. He opened doors I'd slammed shut. Met my sister via FaceTime. Awkward as hell, her Midwestern bluntness clashing with his polished charm. But by the end, she was teasing him about wedding colors. "Tell Mom yet?" she asked me off camera. Not yet. The words stuck, thorns in my throat. Dad's voice echoed, "Ain't natural, boy." But Alex, he never pushed, just held me tighter after, whispering, "When you're ready, or never. I'm here." The high came in spring, cherry blossoms dusting Washington Square Park like confetti. We'd picnic there, cheap wine in plastic cups. Him in jeans and a tee that hugged his frame, looking every bit the professor I'd once fantasized about. "Remember our first real date?" I asked, head in his lap, his fingers combing my hair. "The falafel flop? How could I forget? You got sauce on my tie." I laughed, pulling him down for a kiss that tasted like Merlot and forever. "I love you, Alex Thorne, wolf and all." His breath hitched, eyes shimmering. "Love you too, Nolan Hayes. More than the markets, more than the winds." We made plans, tentative, thrilling. A weekend in the Berkshires, his family's old cabin. No signals, just us. I tell my folks over summer break, come out clean. He talked legacy. Mentoring queer kids in finance, turning Thorne Capital green, sustainable. "Build something real," he'd say, voice fierce. "Not just empires, but empires crumble from within." It started with a whisper, a post-blind item. Wall Street Wolf's secret howl. Merger king caught in Cub's den? Vague, vicious, with a blurry photo of us at that film fest. My head on his shoulder. Alex dismissed it over breakfast. Tabloid trash. Harlan's ghost. Stirring shit from afar. I nodded, but unease coiled in my gut like bad takeout. Then the calls ramped up. Reporters sniffing for dirt. Old friends from his past texting congrats with knives behind their grins. Bored emails leaked to me anonymously. Distraction confirmed. Thorne's lost his edge. And Julian, fucking Julian, resurfaced on a burner Insta, demanding me grainy pics. Alex with some twink in Miami, timestamped last month. Ask him about the yacht party. He always did like fresh meat. My hands shook as I confronted him that night. Pics splayed on the kitchen island like evidence in a trial. Rain hammered the windows again, mirroring the storm inside. "Explain this, Alex, because it looks like Betrayal 2.0. He stared, face draining of color. "Nolan, shit, that's edited. Photoshopped. Julian's back, stirring the pot for a payout." "Convenient." I paced, heart splintering. "After the blind item? The leaks? Face it, you're the wolf." I was the easy mark, the one who wouldn't fight back. "No." He grabbed my arm, desperate. "I fired Harlan, remember? This is retaliation. I swear." "Swear on what? Your deals? Your words as good as your mergers. Hostile till it suits you." Tears burned, hot and furious. I thought we were building something, but it's all games. He released me, deflating like a punctured tire. "I never lied. Not to you. But you didn't tell me everything." I grabbed my jacket, bolting for the door. "Call me when the board approves your next conquest." The slam echoed, final as a verdict. Summer scorched in, humid and unforgiving. I sublet a room in Brooklyn, bed-stewy, vibrant chaos of brownstones and bodegas, drowning in bar tabs and temp work. Pride came and went. I marched alone, rainbow flag heavy on my shoulders, Alex's absence a ghost in the crowd. Texts from him piled up. "Please, let me fix this. I love you." Deleted. unread. Mom called mid-July, voice thin over static. Nolan? You sound. Everything all right? I broke then, sobbing into the phone about the city, the love, the loss. It's him, Mom. He was everything. Silence, then soft. Come home, baby. We'll figure it out. Home. The word twisted, pulling me back to Dayton. Fields flat as hope. Dad's garage radio tuned to Indians games. I booked the bus ticket, packing light. A duffel of regrets. The wolf tattoo sketch I'd inked on my forearm in a haze of spite. But New York clings like tar. On my last night, wandering the High Line at dusk. Rails overgrown with wildflowers, tourists oblivious. I felt him before I saw him. Alex, leaning on a beam, hands in pockets, looking like he'd aged a decade. Nolan, not a plea, a statement, steady. I stopped, wind tousling my hair. Bus leaves at 6. What do you want? You. Simple, shattering. He stepped closer, pulling a folder from his coat. Legal docs stamped and sealed. Resignation letter. I stepped down from Thorn Capital. Sold my shares. Clean break. My breath caught. Why? Because empires are empty without you. I chased wins my whole life, money, power, control. But losing you? That's the only crash that matters. His voice cracked, eyes pleading. Come back. Or don't. But no, I'm all in, no boards, no wolves. Just us. I searched his face. The lines deeper, resolve ironclad. Rain started, soft patter on metal. You really quit? For me. For me. To be the man you deserve. He cupped my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw. What do you say, Hayes? Second chance. The dam broke. Tears, laughter, relief crashing like waves. I kissed him there, under the gathering storm, bodies pressing urgent against the railing. Yes, I gasped. God, yes. We didn't make the bus. Instead, we tumbled back to his place. Our place now, shedding clothes in the elevator, laughter bubbling between kisses. That night, he held me like home, bodies entwined, whispers weaving promises into the dark. But love's not a straight line. It's a skyline, jagged and alive. Fall painted the city in fire, leaves carpeting Central Park, air crisp with possibility. We rebuilt deliberate, brick by brick, no rushing the mortar. Alex's buyout left him liquid, millions banked, enough for reinvention without the wolf's howl. He dove into consulting pro bono for queer startups, mentoring kids like I'd been, wide-eyed transplants with big dreams and bigger fears. Pay it forward, he'd say, over coffee at Housing Works, his hand on mine under the table, unashamed. Me? I landed a solid gig at a nonprofit, financial literacy for LGBTQ plus youth, crunching numbers to keep shelters funded, dreams afloat. Mornings started with him brewing espresso, evenings ended with us on the terrace, wineglass clinks toasting small victories. A kid's first scholarship, a boardroom bully called out. Coming out to my folks was a battlefield. Zoom call from the penthouse kitchen, Alex's hand squeezing mine off-screen. Dad's face hardened at first. This ain't us, Nolan. Beer bottle midway to his lips. Mom cried, quiet and heartbroken. But then, if he makes you happy, son, that's enough. Not acceptance, not yet, but a crack in the door. Alex flew us out that Christmas. First time, tense as a tightrope. Dad thawed over bourbon in the garage, swapping shop talk. Mom hugged him fierce at the airport goodbye. Take care of my boy. Progress, not perfection. The high tide crested in December, our first holiday as us. He strung lights on the balcony, blue and white for Hanukkah roots I'd never known, mixed with a scrappy tree hauled from a lot on 14th. We baked, disastrously, cookies that tasted like love and charcoal, dancing to Dean Martin in socks and aprons. That night, under the tree, he knelt. Not with a ring, but a key, simple, silver, etched with a tiny wolf. To the penthouse, to home. Marry me? Someday. Whenever. Tears pricked. I pulled him up, kissing away the question. Yes, all the somedays. But storms don't need invitations. Harlan resurfaced in February, vindictive specter, suing for breach of fiduciary over some buried clause, dredging Julian's lies into depositions. The Times ran a piece. Fallen wolf. Thorne's empire crumbles amid scandal. Reporters camped outside, flashes popping like gunfire. Alex shielded me. Lawyers on speed dial, statements scripted. But the toll showed. Nights pacing, scotches crutch again, eyes hollow. I found him on the terrace one dawn. Cigarette smoldering, city waking gray below. "This it?" I asked, sliding beside him. "The crash." He stubbed it out, pulling me onto his lap. "Nah, just turbulence." But his voice wavered, grip too tight. "What if I drag you down, Nolan? The wolves bite. Then we bite back." I framed his face, forcing his gaze. "Together. Remember." The trial dragged. Ugly. Exposing Harlan's perjury, Julian's perjured affidavits crumbling under cross. Alex testified calm, unflinching, hand brushing mine under the table. Verdict came swift. Dismissal, countersuit pending. Harlan slunk to obscurity. Julian to a plea deal and community service. Victory tasted bittersweet. Champagne at Delmonico's, but Alex's toast rang hollow. To surviving. After, we escaped to the cabin. Snow-dusted pines, fireplace crackling. No signals, just us. Chopping wood till our hands blistered. Sledding like kids, bodies warming under quilts. One night, stars blanketing the sky, he broke, sobs muffled in my neck, the weight of years spilling out. "I was so scared of losing you. Again." I held him, rocking slow. "You didn't. We're unbreakable." Spring thawed us fully. We volunteered at the center. Me teaching budgets, him guest lecturing on resilience. Markets fall, loves endure. Bet on the latter. Pride that year we marched hand in hand, his arm around me, no shadows. Mom sent a card. "Proud of you both." The wedding was small. Rooftop in June, sunset gilding the skyline. Vows exchanged under a chuppah of wildflowers. "You tamed the wolf," I said. Ring sliding on, simple platinum band. He grinned, that boyish flash. "Nah, you showed me home." Years folded like origami. A brownstone in Brooklyn, his consulting firm blooming ethical, our first foster kid. A scared teen from Queens, echoes of us both. Dad visited, gruff but thawing, teaching the boy fly fishing by the lake. Losses came. Mom's cancer, swift and cruel. Alex's mentor passing, regrets unearthed. But we weathered, hands clasped in hospital rooms, gravesides. On our 10th anniversary, back in that alley, dry now, summer heat shimmering, we stood where it began. "Bled here once," I said, tracing his scar. "Now we bleed together." He kissed me, deep and sure, the city humming approval. He was Wall Street's cold-blooded wolf, but in my arms he was home. And I was whole.